Happy day students. Today we are going to discuss about Geography Chapter 3 Drainage of Class 9 Social Science. Basically in this slide we are going to try to define or even know about few terminology like what is meant by drainage, what is meant by river system, what is meant by a drainage basin. Basically a few things, and also what is meant by a water divide. Okay. The term drainage, if you see, it describes the river system of an area. Okay, if you look at a physical map, okay, you will notice that small streams flowing from different directions, they come together to form a main river. This main river ultimately it drains into a larger water body, okay, maybe a sea or an ocean. So the area drained by a single river system is called as a drainage basin. That is one terminology. Now you will look that on the map, the elevated area, such as it can be a mountain, it can be an upland, which separates. See, this is the elevated area which is separating the two drainage basins. Okay, this can be one drainage basin, this can be the second drainage basin. This elevated area is separating these two drainage basins. So this elevated area is called as a water divide. Okay, so basically we are getting familiar with few terminology. So once understanding the terminology like what is meant by drainage, what is meant by a water divide, and what is meant by a drainage basin, now let us see the drainage patterns. The streams within a drainage basin, they form certain patterns depending on the slope of the land, the underlying rock structure, and also sometimes the climatic condition. What pattern they form varies. So basically four patterns are there, which is dendritic pattern, trellis, the rectangular, and the radial drainage. So the first one, if we take, this is the one. The first one is called the dendritic pattern, where the river channel flows the slope. Wherever the slope is there on the terrain, the river flows along the slope. The stream with its tributaries, it resembles the branches of a tree. See, if you see here, the branches, main tree is there and the branches are there. It resembles a tree. Okay, so that is the dendritic drainage system. Okay, now if a river system is joined by its tributaries approximately at right angles, see, at right angles, if it is joined by its tributaries approximately at right angle, then it forms a trellis drainage. It forms a trellis drainage. That is the second one. Now let us move on. A rectangular, okay, a rectangular drainage pattern, it develops on strongly joined rock terrain. So this rock terrain, strongly it is joined, not much of gaps are there, it's not undulating. So such rock patterns, you will see the rectangular drainage pattern. Now if you see the radial drainage pattern, it develops when the streams flow. See how I'm showing with the marker, they flow in different directions from a central peak, or a dome like structure. Now the combination of several patterns may be found in same drainage basin also. That is also possible. When we are discussing the drainage system of India, the rivers of India basically can be categorized into two major groups, the Himalayan rivers and the peninsular rivers, which we are going to read where these Himalayan rivers originate and how they flow and what are the names of the tributaries, and same for peninsular rivers also we are going to read in this chapter. Now this is a simple flow chart for you. Easily you can remember what are the Himalayan rivers and what are the peninsular rivers. When we discuss about Himalayan rivers, we are going to discuss about the three major river system, the Indus river system, the Ganga river system, and the Brahmaputra river system. And when we talk about the peninsular river, we are going to speak about the Mahanadi, Godavari, Krishna, Kaveri, Narmada, and Tapu. The best and the most simple way of understanding what is the difference between the Himalayan and peninsular river is in the form of a table. Okay, as I have made in this slide. Now the Himalayan rivers, they originate from the Himalayas. Peninsular rivers, they originate from the Deccan Plateau. These are perennial rivers. Always they are filled with water. Now the peninsular rivers are seasonal based on rains. Now, if you take the Himalayan the rivers, they receive water from rain as well as from the melted snow from the lofty mountains. That is why they are perennial. If you take the peninsular rivers, they are always dependent on rainfall. There is no snow here, there is no glacier here, We are talking about the peninsular part. During the dry season, even the large rivers have reduced flow of water. Now, the example of Himalayan rivers, as I showed in the previous slide, Indus, Ganga and Brahmaputra, and some of the examples of peninsular rivers are like the Godavari, Mahanadi, Krishna and Kaveri. Now we are coming to the Himalayan rivers. The first one we are going to read about the Indus river system. If you take the river Indus, it rises near a lake called Manasarovar in Tibet, and later it flowing in west direction. It enters India in the Ladakh district of Jammu and Kashmir. So westwards it will flow, enters India through Ladakh district in Jammu and Kashmir. The tributaries of Indus in Kashmir region are Zanskar, Nubra and Shyok, and later it is joined by other tributaries like we have the Sutlej, Beas, Ravi, Chenab and Jhelum. They also join Indus river, but they join in Mithankot, that is in Pakistan, and once it enters into Pakistan, it flows now southwards. When it took its birth in Manasarovar, it flowed westwards and entered into Jammu and Kashmir. But after entering Pakistan, it will flow southwards to fall into the Arabian Sea east of Karachi. Now, the total length of the Indus river system 2,900 kilometers, and it is the longest river in the world. Now, India and Pakistan, since it flows through India and Pakistan have distributed the Indus river water according to a treaty that was signed by both the countries, the Indus Water Treaty in 1960. In this slide, you see few of the tributaries of Indus river. Like as I have told, you can see the Shyok here, as which I have circled. Then you can see the Zanskar here, Beas, Sutlej, okay, Ravi, Sutlej again here, the same extension, Chenab, Jhelum, okay, and here you see Indus, after being born in Manasarovar, it is flowing in the west direction. It enters into Jammu and Kashmir in the Ladakh region. Later it moves into Pakistan, where Jhelum, Chenab, Ravi and Sutlej join the Indus river. From there you see it will flow southwards to drain into the Arabian Sea. Now we are going into now the next river system, the Himalayan river system, which is the Ganga river system. Now if you take the headwaters of Ganga are called Bhagirathi. Let me underline, the headwaters of Ganga are called Bhagirathi, and it is fed by Gangotri glacier. The water comes from Gangotri glacier. It is joined by Alaknanda in Devaprayag. Okay, so now the headwater is called Bhagirathi, getting its water from Gangotri glacier. Bhagirathi is joined by Alaknanda at Devaprayag. Okay, now Ganga meets the tributaries from Himalaya such as the Gagara, the Gandak and the Kosi from the Nepal Himalayas. Now a major river, that is Yamuna, which is rising from Yamunotri glacier, it runs parallel to Ganga and later joins Ganga in Allahabad. The other tributaries that join from the peninsular part are like the Chambal, Betwa and so on. They come from the peninsular uplands to join Ganga. Then later Ganga travels eastwards, and at Farakka in West Bengal, it is the northernmost point of the Ganga delta. Now Ganga is joined by Brahmaputra and it forms river Meghna. See how the names are changing now, and flows through Bangladesh to reach Bay of Bengal. The delta formed when Ganga and Brahmaputra flow together into Bay of Bengal is called the Sundarban delta. You would have heard about it. It's called Sundarban because of the name of the trees that are present in this delta region, which are called the Sundaris. The length of Ganga is over 2,500 km, and it develops large meanders in the downstream plain regions where the river becomes slow. Now this is more of the map of the Ganga river system for you to form a mental picture here. Here you see the Nepal Himalayas. Let me try to circle the Gagara, the Gandak, and the Kosi River. They arise from the Nepal Himalayas and they join the Ganga river system. Now these are the rivers which flood parts of northern plain every year, causing widespread damage to life and property. But we have to bear in mind that they will also enrich the soil for agricultural lands. Okay, so they come from the Nepal Himalayas. Then if you take the other tributaries that join Ganga are, as I told, Yamuna arising from the Yamunotri glacier. It travels parallel. See, Ganga is traveling here and Yamuna is also traveling parallel, and it meets Ganga at Allahabad. Here let me circle Allahabad. Okay. And now let us see the other tributaries that are also joining Ganga, like the Chambal and the Betwa and Son also join Ganga. Later it travels in the eastward direction, and near Farakka you will see it bifurcates into two, the Bhagirathi and the Hooghly branches. The main stream, okay, flows further ahead, the mighty river with waters from Ganga and Brahmaputra, as I told, later drain into Bay of Bengal, forming the Sundarban deltas. Now, let us move on to the other Himalayan river system, which is the Brahmaputra river system. It is originating in Tibet, and the origin point is very close to the sources of the Indus and Sutlej. And most of the course of Brahmaputra lies outside India. It's not in India. Okay, on reaching Namcha Barwa, you will see that this Brahmaputra takes a U-turn and enters into Arunachal Pradesh to flow to Assam, joined by many tributaries. The tributaries that join Brahmaputra, for you to remember the names, are Dibang, Lohit and Kenula. Now the unique feature of Brahmaputra river system is it has got a braided channel, like a plait here, which ladies do that, like entire length in Assam, to form many riverine islands. In between the braids you see small islands that are formed, which we call the riverine islands. Okay, world's largest riverine island is also found in this particular riverine islands, the braided part. Unlike North Indian rivers, the Brahmaputra is marked by huge deposits of silt on its bed, causing the river bed to rise. Now we move on to the peninsular rivers. Now, as I told in the first slide, I spoke about few terminology. One of it was the water divide. Now the main water divide in peninsular India is formed by the Western Ghats, okay, which runs from north to south to the western coast. Most of the major rivers of peninsular rivers, such as, what are the rivers we are talking about? We are talking about the Mahanadi, Krishna and Kaveri. They flow eastwards to drain into Bay of Bengal. However, Tapi and Narmada are the rivers which flow westwards and they drain into Arabian Sea to make estuaries, and later they drain into Arabian Sea. Now, the drainage basins that are formed by the peninsular rivers compared to the basins formed by the Himalayan rivers, they are a little bit smaller. The basins formed by peninsular rivers are smaller. This is a map of the Himalayan rivers and also the peninsular rivers, which has to be done by the students and pasted in the classwork or wherever map activity book that you have. Now let us go through the peninsular rivers. The first one which I am going to read about is the Narmada river and the Narmada basin. Narmada river arises in Amarkantak hills. It flows to create a deep gorge in marble rocks of Madhya Pradesh. Now it flows west in a rift valley formed due to faulting. Near Jabalpur, you will see it flows into a deep gorge in the marble rocks, and Daudar Falls are a beautiful picturesque location and distinctive feature of Narmada basin. Now if you go to Tapi basin, it originates in Betul, again in Madhya Pradesh in Satpura ranges. It again flows in a rift valley, but it flows parallel to Narmada, but it is much shorter than Narmada. It flows through basin that covers Madhya Pradesh, Gujarat and Maharashtra. The main west flowing rivers are Sabarmati, more we have, like Mahi, Bharatpula and Periyar. Moving on to the Godavari basin. Godavari begins in Nasik district of Maharashtra. It is the largest peninsular river, about 1500 kilometers. Its large basin covers most parts of Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, Orissa, Andhra Pradesh. Okay, the tributaries which join the Godavari include the Purna, Varda, Pranahita, Manjra, Vaiganga and Penganga. Because of its length and the area it covers, this Godavari is also known as Dakshin Ganga. Godavari, as we told, it flows eastwards and drains into Bay of Bengal. The Mahanadi basin is 860 kilometers long. It rises in Chhattisgarh to flow through Orissa to reach Bay of Bengal. Mahanadi river basin is shared by Maharashtra, Orissa, Jharkhand and Chhattisgarh. These are basically the important points you need to remember about the peninsular rivers. Now moving on to Krishna Basin, which is 1400 kilometers long. It rises from the springs near Mahabaleshwar to reach Bay of Bengal. The tributaries of, as I told, the Krishna include Bhima, Musi, Gatprabha, Koina, Tungabhadra. The Krishna Basin is shared by states like Maharashtra, Karnataka and Andhra Pradesh. Now the Kaveri Basin, it originates in Brahmagiri ranges in the Western Ghats. The Kaveri reaches Bay of Bengal at the Kaveri Patnam, sharing its basin with Karnataka, Tamil Nadu and Kerala. The river Kaveri makes the second biggest waterfall in India, known as Sivasamudram. Other smaller rivers like Damodar, Brahmani, Baitarini or Vaitarini and Subarnaleka are also present flowing through the peninsular part. Along with the rivers, we need to learn about lakes, where many lakes are present in India as well. So most lakes are permanent, always present, while others contain water only during rainy season. They are rain fed. Some lakes are result of glacier action and ice sheets, and some may have been formed by wind or river action, or sometimes even human activity. Humans also create lakes. The river meandering across a floodplain forms cutoffs that later develops into oxbow lakes. Glacier lakes are formed when glaciers dig out a basin which is later filled with snowmelt. Now, some lakes, like if you take Wooler Lake in Jammu and Kashmir, it is result of tectonic activity. Apart from natural lakes, the damming of rivers, where you construct a dam across the rivers for generation of hydroelectricity, has also led to formation of many lakes. Now, what is the use of lakes is lakes helps to regulate water flow, prevent flooding. They also help in development of hydropower and moderate climatic changes. Now, if you take role of rivers in economy, they're just not flowing there. As I told, they help, like if you dam a river, construct a dam, it helps in generation of hydroelectricity. Multi-purpose river valley projects are also built. We must understand these are natural sources of water. Settlements on the river banks have developed into cities because the civilizations have started on river banks only, and the rivers are used for irrigation, navigation, hydropower generation and all the other important activities. Okay, the civilizations, as I told, started only because of rivers when they settled near the rivers. But we must understand that we human beings are causing pollution. We are the main reason for polluting the rivers. The quality of river water is affected by the growing domestic, municipal and industrial as well as agricultural demand. A heavy load of untreated sewage and industrial effluents are emptied into the river, affecting the river's self-cleaning property. Every river, like human body, has got self-cleaning capacity. But if the amount of effluents that you are releasing into these rivers is beyond its self-cleaning capacity, then it gets polluted and the water will not be fit for use. Concerns over raising pollution in a river led to launching of various action plans to clean the rivers. But these action plans will be successful only if we also decide not to pollute them any further. One side the government is cleaning and the other side if are polluting it, then the productivity is zero. So these are some of the pictures how the human activities are polluting the rivers with their carelessness. When we talk about various plans that are come up by the government to clean rivers, the first one and the most important one is the National River Conservation Plan (NRCP). And we also come across Ganga Action Plan (GAP) Phase 1. It is initiated in 1985, were declared closed on 31st March of 2000. The steering committee of the National River Conservation Authority reviewed the progress of GAP and necessary corrections on the basis of lessons learned and experiences gained from phase 1. These have been whatever lessons they have learned from phase 1, they have been applied in major polluted rivers of the country under the NRCP plan. Now the Ganga Action Plan Phase 2 has been merged with NRCP. Phase 1 is over. We have learned lessons and that have been implemented in Phase 2. It expanded. NRCP now covers 152 towns located along 27 interstate rivers in 16 states. Under this action plan, pollution abatement works are being taken up by 57 towns. A total of 215 schemes of pollution abatement has been sanctioned. So far, 69 schemes have been completed under this action plan. 1 million liters of sewage is targeted to be intercepted, diverted and treated, which is a humongous task which will not be possible if we also cooperate. So with this, we come to the end of the chapter. The map activity in this lesson is very important, and the names of the tributaries and where the river originates and how it empties is very important. Lot of data to be memorized and recollected. So read the content that is given in the textbook. Thank you.